Welcome back to the Honest Art Podcast, everyone. I'm so excited you're here. We are talking about how to title your artwork. And this is such a fun topic for me to talk about because I've made a million mistakes around it. And as you know, I love talking about my mistakes and all the dumb, stupid stuff I've done so that you don't have to do your own dumb, stupid stuff yourself. So here's the thing is that I always find that, I'm in my creative process and I've gone through the ups and downs of this painting and I finally get it to where I want it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of what I've done. And I can't wait to put it out there, right? To share it with the world. Maybe you're not ready to share your art with the world. That's totally fine. But I cannot put it out there and share it with the world without this one final super important thing. And that is putting a title on it that is going to be really reflective of the painting. So a title, you guys, one of the reasons or maybe the biggest reason the title is so important is because the title gives the collector so much more information about the artist's intent around the art. And I know a lot of you out there are abstract artists. And if you're following me, you might be an abstract artist. You don't have to be. It could be something totally different, as we're going to talk about just a minute. But especially if you are painting an abstract work, your title can be the thing that helps that collector connect to your art. And you know what happens when that happens is that oftentimes the collectors will buy. So it's a fun episode. Stay with me. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Okay, so like I was saying, a title can literally help you sell a painting. And I've got my own experience around this, not as an artist, but as a collector. So this was years and years ago. My husband at the time, I don't have one of those now, but my husband and I at the time, we would go to Santa Fe and we would love to look at art. And we were on Canyon Road this one time, and we really were there with the intent to buy a painting. Like we wanted to buy some art, right? But we had this one thing that we had to agree on, and that is we both had to love the painting, right? So I think that was key. And it's kind of hard sometimes because art is subjective. I would like one piece and he would like the other. But we came into this one particular gallery and we saw this piece of art. Actually, he spotted it first. We spotted this piece of art and we're like, oh, that might be it. But we're not quite sure. And then we looked at the price of the painting, which was thousands of dollars. And so then that made us even more go, oh, I'm not quite sure about this. And so at that point, the gallery salesperson came over and introduced himself and everything. And then we asked about the title. What was the title of the piece? Now, first of all, if a gallery doesn't have the title of the piece next to it, shame on the gallery because it really helps to sell the work. But anyway, we asked about the title, and the title of it was Intrepid. Okay? Now, I didn't necessarily know fully what intrepid meant, if I'm being honest. And I consider myself, a word person and, English and all that sort of thing. But it was when I got out my phone and I typed in the definition of intrepid, and I can't even remember what it is right now. I should have written this down. But basically, it was like looking into the future with a sense of hope, but also understanding that where you were in the moment was a really difficult place. And that is exactly where we were in that moment. So that's where I go back to art validates the human experience. That piece of art, and because it was titled Intrepid, was the turning point that made us say, that's the one. That's the painting we want. So when I'm saying having the right title on the painting can sell the art, it can literally help us sell our art. Okay, and then the other thing that I think is kind of really super fun about when we think about giving our art a title is I can't tell you how important, if it's appropriate for you, it's not appropriate for everybody, if it's appropriate for you, to give your painting a title that has a hint of humor to it. First of all, there was a psychologist that said, I wish I could remember the name of the psychologist, but he said, if you can make a girl laugh, you can kiss her. And I think that relates to art as well. Like if you can give your painting a title that has some humor in it, you're going to bring that collector so much closer to at least wanting to buy it. And I've seen this happen so many times for me. Like there was this one painting, this was back when I was doing more figurative, and I did a painting of a pig, and I thought it was pretty fun. But anyway, the place where it was a home furnishing stores where it was, was where I was selling my work. And I had delivered the work, and this particular piece was like laying on the floor, not laying, but kind of leaning against the wall, but it was on the floor because they were about to hang it. And somebody came in, and then it caught their eye, right? And then they said to the worker there, they said, "What's the title?" And I had titled it, "Not Just a Piece of Meat." Get it? Pig, not just a piece of meat, right? And they said, "Oh my God, I've got to have it." So, I mean, y'all, using a little humor in your titles can be really, really helpful. I did another piece it's a huge, huge piece. It's a rooster, and I titled it "Foul Play." Get it? FOWL, foul play. I mean, so anytime you can have an opportunity to use a little humor, I always suggest to go for it. All right, but sometimes like humor is not appropriate when you are, you're titling a painting. Maybe the painting was an incredibly emotional painting. Maybe you were processing some grief, or maybe you were processing some anger, and the colors reflect that. I mean, it's just clear this is not a painting that's really lighthearted, right? But what I want to caution you about is even in those moments, maybe it's there's a lot of anger or grief, whatever. If you can like turn the dial a little bit on the title to where you can still like stay positive in a way around the title, that's going to be really helpful. And in my experience, there was this one painting that I did. This was years ago, but it was when I was processing. It was going through my divorce. I was processing a lot of grief. I was processing a lot of anger, just a ton of emotion, right? And there was a lot of super dark colors, a lot of dark Payne's gray, a lot of dark burnt umber, a lot of dark colors. But within that, there was also some other brighter colors too. But when you look at it, the gestures were they were really, really expressive gestures, and it was tended to be a little bit of a darker painting. Now, I could have named that painting something like, well, I won't even say what I was going to say, something angry, right? But instead, as I said, I was going through a divorce. It wasn't finished, right? I was in the middle of it. And I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about right now for, in your own experience. So what I titled that, instead of fuckity fuck fucking asshole, instead of that, which maybe would have sold, but I titled it Unfinished Business. Okay, so within that title, any collector could look at that piece and have their own emotional experience based on the gestures, based on the colors, all of that. They could, when they see Unfinished Business, they could have their own relationship and they can impart their own interpretation into the painting. And that's actually exactly what happened. The person that ended up buying that painting was somebody who was going through a very, very difficult time, going through a ton of grief. And then she saw this piece. Her grief had nothing to do with a divorce, but she was able to look at that painting and experience that painting, saw that the title was Unfinished Business. And then she had some hope for herself because within that she could see some of the colors and everything. So my point is, stay positive. Even if you've got a painting that feels very hard and difficult, when you're giving it a title, try to spin it to where it can be a little bit more positive than what you maybe actually want to title it. All right, so just getting away from, the funny or the dark or, staying positive or anything like that. There can be a tendency to be like, look, I don't even know what to give this painting a title as. I have no idea. And also some artists are so incredibly prolific that they've painted tons and tons of paintings and they're like, I don't know. And so then what happens is they use the term untitled. Okay, people, friends, please do not use untitled as the title, because you know what that's giving? That's giving, as an artist, I really don't care, right? It's giving, I painted it, you finish it up. Like it's giving, nah, I'm not really into this, right? So don't do that. Do whatever you need to do. Phone a friend. I will do this sometimes with my team member, Amy. She and I work really closely together. And if I do an entire collection, I'll say, hey, Amy, let's get together. Let's have a drink. And let's title these paintings, okay? So do what you got to do, but don't make it untitled, whatever you do. Okay, now, going back to the idea of getting somebody to help you, right? That can be really, really helpful. The reason it's so helpful is that you can ask your friend or whoever it might be, maybe it's a coworker, and say, hey, what do you see? Right? So because we tend to be like really close to the situation. We know what we were experiencing as we were painting it. But sometimes to get a title, you need to have an outsider's perspective, right? To be able to give it a title. Now, I want to caution you on this. I want to caution you on this. And that is, like, if somebody looks at your painting and it's abstract and you were, I don't know what it is. And they're like, oh, look, a giraffe or a boat or a lion, or, that's what everybody wants to do. We always, no shade to people who do that. Well, little shade, but it's like our brains are trying to make something of something, right? Especially with abstract work. So if somebody who's viewing it says something like that, and it's so far off from what your intent was of the piece, you don't have to do that. But it is really helpful. Like if Amy, who's around, and she looks at the piece and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I see. I just feel like it's so happy," or I just feel like with this going off over here, it's like looking into the distance. She can provide a perspective that maybe I haven't seen from my own perspective, but since I was a little too close to it. So when you're giving it a title, I think it's always helpful. If you're stuck, just to go ahead and phone a friend. Okay, lastly, as we're talking about giving your painting a title that your collectors can connect to, another thing you can do is you can consider where you are or the location of where you live in the titles of your painting. Now, again, I always, I say if you can make something catchy, if you can make something memorable, if you can make something relatable in terms of the title, that just adds to your creativity. It adds to the painting, right? It can literally make the difference. And when I'm talking about location of where you live, an example that comes to mind is I'm a Cajun girl, right? I was raised in South Louisiana. Frogs are not just something that you look at. It could also be something you eat. Okay, I ate a lot of frog's legs when I was growing up. So if you like, say you're like I was talking about with the pig, maybe it's not just a piece of meat, but also like if you've got a painting of a frog and you're in South Louisiana and you title it dinner question mark, that's funny. And that is super, super relatable. But if you did that, say like in, I don't know, Arizona, it's probably not gonna fly as well. But I always like to give you ideas and examples of like things you can do, like to think outside of the box for creating a title for your work. But having said that, sometimes you just get stuck. Sometimes you just don't know what to do, just don't know what kind of title to give it. And for that, I say, there are a lot of apps out there that can help you. So you can always choose an app, and sometimes it'll ask for some descriptive language and it'll help you title it. You could also go to ChatGPT. I did this recently when I had a collection of paintings, and I'm like, oh my God. I was looking at it, and there were some clear images. It was, even though it was abstract, there were some clear images in it that were intentional, of like, it almost looked like little houses on the painting. And so I was stuck, and I had already titled so many of them. So I just felt like I was out. I was creatively busted, right? And so I went to ChatGPT and I wrote, give me a title of a painting. Actually, here's what I said. Give me a sassy title of a painting with an abstract piece of work that looks like there are houses, right? Like, it was just the vaguest, weirdest request or prompt for ChatGPT. And it immediately came back with chaos in the cul-de-sac. How great is that? Now, I don't want to completely rely on ChatGPT, right? Because I feel like I'm pretty creative, and also I always want it to be relatable. But if you're really stuck, do not hesitate to use something like an app or ChatGPT. I know a lot of artists that do that. And finally, as we're talking about giving your work a title, it makes no difference if you give it a title if you don't share that title. And when I'm talking about sharing that title, I'm talking about on social media, I'm talking about on your email list, if you have a website, wherever you show your work publicly, put that title, okay? Because I know for me, sometimes I can be so eager to post a piece of art because I'm super excited about it. But the idea is to connect to somebody. I want that piece of work to connect to somebody, even if they don't buy it, right? I want it to connect to somebody. So when I put it on social media or I share it to my email list, whatever it might be, I always put the title, because I know, as I said in the beginning, the title is going to be something that really gives the collector some insight into what my intention for the piece was as an artist. So don't neglect your title, because it can be the one thing that really helps you sell some art. Okay? Take good care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time. Peace out. Whether you're a new painter or a seasoned one, we can always improve our art to fine art status. I created the Color Course for Rebels to give you the tools to do just that. I'm a 7-figure artist who's been painting for over 20 years, and this course has everything I use creatively to sell my art globally, to get into galleries and exhibitions everywhere. So the Color Course for Rebels covers values, compositions, how to uncover your own particular style, color saturation, and of course, my signature color mixing method, and so much more. The best part? The price starts at only $67. Are you ready to make fine art? Check out the link in the show notes for the Color Course for Rebels. If you're in Austin and looking for a beautiful, chic, modern space that is versatile for any event, I recommend The Commune. I love it so much, it's where I host my own painting workshops. With their great location in North Central Austin and amazing kind staff, they are the perfect place to host any event. Check out their website, thecommuneatx.com, and their Instagram, thecommune.atx.